Hi, I'm Eric Aaron Lizer. Got a mustache now. PTSD. Mommy issues, daddy issues, and this is the evening Muse. Oh boy! I moved to Portland. I really like it up here. Lots of cool people going through their things. We call it where young people go to retire. I like that. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's something about people who don't give a fuck what anyone else says about them. They're just doing what they got to do. And if you don't really get it, it ain't for you, man. It ain't for you, man. But some people, they do and come here and live. Anyways, I got divorced last year and now I'm up here trying to figure out what I'm doing and all sorts of things been happening. Been dealing with my shadow self. It's weird. All I know is it's something that I had to do and I'm glad that I did it. And now that I'm here, I feel real good about myself. Well, anyways, today we're going to talk about love. We're going to talk about love. We're going to talk about love. And I got to guess. Hold on. We're going to introduce her first. I'm going to shut this off. Here we go. Gone. Today's guest is Kirsten Lewis. Hi, Kirsten. Welcome to the show. Give me a moment. Let me let these people know a little bit about you for a second, okay?
Well,
Kirsten Lewis is an artist and comedian by night and nonprofit worker by day. Kirsten's unique story includes being diagnosed with ulcerative colitis at the age of 13, leading to the removal of her large intestine at the age of 15. She was later diagnosed with nearly stage 4 breast cancer, leading to her having both breasts removed at the age of 26. Despite these challenges, you'll find she radiates positivity and finds a way to look at the good in every situation. Kirsten now draws inspiration from her unique life's journey to bring hope to those experiencing similar hardships. She's now here with us today to talk about the importance of self-love before you can fully love anybody else. So I want to be the first to say, Kirsten, thank you so much for joining the show today and being a part of this journey where we're going to express and explain the many multifaceted way love manifests itself.
sounds great. Yeah, no, I love it. I love this topic. I think it is something that everyone should realize, and that, it's something that not all do in life. And so I'm excited to talk about it. And thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thank you for being here.
Yes, yes.
So first off, I would just want to say the reason why I decided to have an episode of the Daily Muse on love is because I recently went through a divorce.
Yeah.
And in the wake of that experience, it made me realize not only a lot of my own toxicity, a lot of my neediness, a lot of my codependent tendencies, and what I was drawn towards, and seeking out those feelings of validation through somebody else. But it made me recognize the importance of understanding the many different aspects of love. So I really am so glad you were able to come on and be a part of this, having undergone your unique journey yourself. So can you please just give a little time to introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah. I'm Kirsten. He did a really good job of explaining myself at the beginning, but yeah, I during the day I do some nonprofit work with a really great company called Self Enhancement Incorporated. But after hours, I'm in my apartment doing art or out doing comedy, just bringing to light the different, aspects of bringing awareness to things that not only have I been through, but just also, yeah, bringing humor to it all. Because the best way to ingest a dark and hard thing is through comedy, in my
That's
opinion.
what's up.
And
That's what's up.
yeah, yes.
Well, let me go ahead and say, since we are going to be discussing love today,
Mhm.
and I really realized recently because I had a good friend of mine up here, guy, who was very much a mentor to me in my youth. I've known him for almost 30 years. I think I was 17 years, around 25 when we met. I joined a fraternity. We clicked in the sense that we both had these really dark childhoods and dark, sort of paths that led us to substance abuse and maybe, alcoholism, or at least substance abuse in all its forms: drinking, eating,
Mhm.
fucking, all the which ways. We connected on that. And then now he lived up here, and I was so excited. I'm 45-year-old man. He's in his 50s, he's 52. And I was like, okay, here we are. We're going to go full circle, thinking it was going to be something good. And it wasn't.
Oh.
If anything, our friendship dissolved because he doesn't believe in love at all. He says love doesn't exist. Okay. He didn't get it from his parents. He doesn't have it for himself. And
Mm.
before we get into, romantic love and the many manifestations that can take, I wanted us to get into the importance of loving yourself first and how that relates to you and your personal story, having gone through what you're going through and living with today.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, it's couldn't be a better, like, more perfect time for me to kind of talk about this because as much as I had the idea that I had love for myself, it really wasn't until actually like after my cancer diagnosis and actually removing my tits that I felt the most myself and had so much love for myself. And that had to do a lot with during that time of going through chemo and such. It was the first time I really was able to focus on myself because not gonna lie, like I like chemo messed my hoo-ha up. So sex was not on the table. So for me, I realized that sex was a big reason of why I found myself in like in relationships, situationships, and such. And when that was removed, I was like, kind of, what's the point in dating? And so it was the first time, so in years, that I had over a 6 month period of just not even fudging with anyone romantically and not even having that desire. And so through that and through realizing there was a lot of empowerment through all of that, due to the fact that I didn't need anyone, but not necessarily need anyone, but I was able to just do me. And then also, you know, going through that process and having the power I did to do it in a positive light, I found empowerment through that and just a lot of self love. And again, once my tits were removed, I never felt more in my body. And so I found myself, in a more empowered way, and more self love way than I could say before. I mean,
Well,
there's
well,
times that,
hold on. And I don't mean to interrupt, but I do have some questions based off what you said already.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when you were saying you felt more empowered and more yourself, were you defining your first off? What size were they before they were removed?
Oh, nah, they ranged between like a big B to a small C, depending
Okay,
on if that period was ever or not.
fair.
Let's
Sorry, man, brain had to ask. So, would you say you defined yourself through that though, through your body? Was that part of it, or what do you mean when you say you found yourself and that self love through the experience?
Yeah, so to be honest, I mean, even right before that, I really had I really I really s I felt as if I struggled with, my identity as just a person. I remember talking to friends and saying, like, I feel like a big male essence of myself, but, like, I am a female, right? And I didn't really understand of, like, how to portray that for others to understand it, so it wasn't that I really talked about it with many, and then actually right before even my diagnosis, I realized I was like, actually, I guess the term for that would kind of be more on the aspect of like gender fluidity and kind of like that non-binary aspect. And for me, it was, that was already empowering in itself because it was the first time that I was like, oh, whoa, that kind of is me, right? Because before I felt like I was viewed as like just a woman, like, oh, she's just this female who I don't know, I mean, just a sexual being or so kind of thing. And
Okay, so do you consider yourself more of a they them now?
honestly, it would be more they, she, them, she, they, because I'll be honest, I still very much view myself as a feminine woman, as a woman, but at the same time, I I don't feel like saying I it's hard for me to say I'm just a woman because there's a lot of my mindset and the way I go about certain things that's very male dominant, and some would argue, how do you determine that as like male or female or just a different type of woman, right? But really it's society has kind of built this construct on like, this is how a man is, this is how a woman is, right? And I just didn't never really felt fully in the women aspect, but I also never really fully felt in the male aspect.
Okay. So, but then I'm questioning how much, because I do think it is very important, especially when we're talking about the concept of self love in general. Uh, Being able to self identify how we view ourselves and how we find our power and how we find our own love for the essence we bring into the world. But some of the stuff you're saying with regard to societal gender roles, with regard to saying like, oh, was I viewed as just a woman in the sexual beings type thing, like that to me feels more about a construct than about the truth with regards to femininity and masculinity and sort of an ambiguous two-spirit nature, because some of that is bullshit. Some of that is purely just, what we have been fed and told. For example, I'm a 6'7" man. I'm 255 pounds. I got a mustache now. I walk down the street and people are like, that's a big ass dude. But at the same time, I'm very sensitive, very much so. It's all I know. I was raised by a lot of women, all that. But I don't think that makes me less of a man. I still view myself as a he, him. And I question whether if I were to be born more in this time and I was coming up knowing like, oh, I don't necessarily just fit into like, I got to be a jock, I got to be a butch all the time. If I would have been like, well, I'm a they, them. And I wonder how that may affect young people today coming up without fully grasping the nuance of what society is telling them and just being your authentic self.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I mean, and that's kind of a tough thing too, because we grew up in a society that told us this, and this, right? And now we're seeing this change in the fact that society is not only this, and this, because we haven't changed too much, but at the same time, we're also bringing to light the differences and uniqueness of each person. And instead of it being this way, like black and white, we have all the different colors, right? There's all the different things. And I think what's really amazing about the way our society is kind of turning in the sense of having these topics is that it's giving those who, even like myself, it's giving myself kind of almost a title. Not that we need a title, not that I care that much about the title necessarily, but it's just this peace of mind to think like, okay, this is okay. Like I'm not the only one who feels this way, kind of thing, right? And it gives them a place. And because there's so many people who might, even before who could feel this way, but society that's not the norm. And so they either are hidden, they either not speaking about it, and that can lead to some really dangerous things. When you don't feel accepted in this state of being that we're living in, that can have a lot of detrimental aspect to it. And so in my mind, I think with all this coming out, yeah, there's some people, there could be some that are like, oh, I want to be, I feel like this because I saw it on this show kind of thing. But at the same time, it's just giving the youth the ability to have the option to explore all that stuff and
Oh,
feel not feel subject to be one way or the other, but to kind of have that aspect to be like, oh, you know what, that actually kind of resonates a little bit with me more, right? And they might go down that path, and then who knows, maybe later in their life they realize, okay, wait, maybe it's not that necessarily, but more like this, because I mean, we're becoming we're becoming aware of so many different things. I mean, right? It went from just straight and bisexual to now we have pansexual. Now we have this, right? There's so many, there's asexual even, right? And so think of someone who's asexual, right? They just think something's wrong with me. I don't like sex, right? And
well,
not have that, aspect. You're just like, you feel different, but now you can be like, oh, I'm asexual. And then you have that term to say, this is who I am, and it's I mean, yeah, you will probably have to explain it to those who might not know of it, but because it's all becoming so much more aware in our society, it's given those people the ability to not have to explain just who they are as an essence. They can just say, hey, this is what I am. If you want more information about it, look it up. I can tell you the reasons why I feel this way, but this is who I am. And
I got you. I got you. What I think is interesting is if you ever have looked into like the way the Native Americans viewed gender, they had six. Okay, they had traditional masculine, traditional feminine, or male female and gender. They had sort of, I guess, the butch, or I don't know what you would call it, where it's like the woman that feels more masculine in the way she presents herself.
mm,
They had the I don't know what you would call it, but the man who feels more feminine in the way he presents himself or herself, if you want to use language, is very fluid. Okay, they had the two spirit, which is sort of the um, amalgamation of both, feeling like you contain both aspects. And then they had the sixth, which was none of it,
ooh,
which is like, I don't feel like
either
I am just a
the soul.
soul. So, and that is nothing new, where a lot of people are like, hey, you're taking away from the binary, man, woman, how dare you? Okay, I get it as far as like you need the rigidity of boxes, but this is not a new concept. This is something that had already existed before.
Isn't
And that's
that
just
wild? Isn't that wild? Oh man, that kind of like that. I love that. I love that so much. But what irks me about it is because of the fact that we came in wanting to conquer, and we're gonna completely erase all of your traditional. However, you think you have to think this way, right? If they were to just accept, not only take over the land and such, but won't get too into that, but if they were to just accept their traditions and such, we would have been so far ahead. And now we're almost like now, like, yeah, the Native Americans are like, oh yeah, no, this has been a thing, right? And I mean,
Mhm.
for me, even just you saying that in the sense of like a female who feels a little bit more male, right? I mean, that would even be more of kind of even like just how I feel at times, kind of thing. Like, and so,
Very,
yeah,
very
so that fluidness, that
well.
fluidness.
And then hence when I'm talking about Portland and understanding when they say like this is where young people go to retire, it's like in Portland you're never gonna be the weirdest, the quote unquote
No.
weirdest person here, because we're all just it's like fit in or get out, accept or go somewhere else. Um, Hence bringing us to the next aspect of this discussion on love, which is the love of friendship. And
Mm,
what I mean by that is, I think we both agree you can't truly love anybody else until you love yourself. And you can't love yourself until you're willing to accept your feelings. If you feel like this or that, if you fit into box A, B, C, D, E, or none of the above, you have to have that acceptance of who you are.
mhm.
Like for many years, I was a frat boy. Okay. 20 years I was hanging out that shit. And there's so many guys that I see in it. And I'm like, bro, I say, you remember when we used to hang out and spank each other with the paddles and stuff? And I just mean it in the sense of like it felt homosocial,
Mm,
not sexual, but there are a lot of men, young men in there that prefer the company of men. Doesn't necessarily mean fucking, although sometimes I'm sure it went down in a tent. But but I just mean it's just like it's the comfort of of what you prefer. Now, when I say friendship, I mean you have to just be like, this is what I am. So you can honestly convey that aspect of yourself to someone else, right?
yeah.
And then when you do, you say, hopefully they know themselves well enough to be like, well, this is who I am. And you see if you vibe, if you jive. Now I don't know why I did this. This felt a little oh, this is a church, this is a steeple, open it up, there's all the people. But I'm just saying, like, there's something to it with regards to just like being your authentic self and meeting someone who can be their authentic self and being like, yo, I love who you are. Okay.
Mm,
The problem is, I think when people don't fully love themselves, too often you'll have situations where they then are trying to either force a sexuality into the relationship, or they're being disingenuous with themselves, i.e., if you're gay, yo, maybe fuck your best friend. You know what I mean? Like if that's what you're about.
yeah.
Or if you're not in a position to be monogamous and you're this hypersexual being, maybe it's okay if you're going to be, you know,
Yeah.
sleeping with your friends. Or if you're asexual, maybe don't put yourself into a situation where you are now in a marriage situation. Like I think the love of
With someone who is very sexual, right? Don't put it in you be in a marriage sexual situation with someone who also is the same, right? Who maybe is also asexual, or in that aspect, you could still be in a marriage situation with someone who is, but you guys are so okay, you're very secure in the sense that you can just say, "Hey, I know I can't provide this sex with you all the time because that's not my thing, but I still love you. I still want to you are my person. You go do your thing. You go have sex, you go do all of that, right? There so I wouldn't say don't put yourself in that kind of situation, but put yourself in a situation that works.
So
Right?
okay, so now we're discussing the nuances between the idea of polyamory and monogamy, which I think is interesting because I think too often times polyamory is
Let me
is a
pause
misnomer.
real quick. Let me actually I want to say one thing about the friendship aspect before we move into kind of like the polyamory is that with the friendship aspect and like the love for yourself and others is that if you are so if you have this love for yourself and this empowerment with how you are and you are as a person, it's going to relay, you're going to end up being friends with those who have similar values. When you don't know that yet, you'll find yourself, I say this in the sense that I have been through all this, right? You'll find yourself being friends with people who aren't genuine to your authentic self because you haven't reached that point of realizing your authentic self, right? Like you'll find that aspect of you're with someone who, you know, it's really, it's completely opposite, but you just want that love from someone else because you don't have it for yourself, that you allow yourself to be friends with them because you want that validation and such, even from just a friend.
Whoa. Okay, so now I feel like we're talking about codependency. So we got a few different things going on, and it depends where you want to go with this conversation because I think they're all valid and deserve equal weight and time. So, do you think we should move into the concept of codependency first, or do you think we should discuss the difference between monogamous and, I'm going to say polygamous and not polyamorous love style? Because for me, polyamory, that's just like how I'm hardwired. I can love easy. That doesn't mean you don't get all that. You don't get the blash, blash, blash necessarily. I mean, I don't know how you do the lady version of that.
Well, me, I got both.
Okay, so I'm just saying, like,
I
there's
don't
a
have both.
difference.
But,
Absolutely, but I'm saying
but
there's poly love to, like, I don't know how to exist through the world without being an open-hearted person because that's just how I move, you know?
yeah,
So, do you want to talk about the concept of codependence or the concept of polyamory first?
let's go. Let's go on the codependence
Okay.
because, yeah, let's go on codependence first because if you think about it, you could be codependent on one person or so you can have this codependency and it can lead into even polyamory because if, yeah, we'll go into codependency.
Okay. So then let me say this.
Yeah,
Um, I feel like in the wake of my divorce, it really made clear to me how codependent I truly am. Because for a long time, the validation I was seeking had to come at the hands of someone else telling me, "Hey, I I love you. I want you. I need you. I worship you. I am just like fully engaged with the person you are." And I realized that that was because I didn't have a sense of self worth on my own. And that was because I was overweight. I mean, when I moved up here, I was a good, I would say 50 pounds heavier than I need to be because in the wake of my divorce or through the process of my marriage falling apart, sandwich felt good, late night sandwich, blunt, 11 p.m. cheeseburger or ice cream, all that was instant gratification. And I needed that to just feel okay in the moment, or at least to have that temporary feeling of satiation that I wasn't getting because emotionally I was in a bad place. It was distraught. So when someone else would show up and be like, I fucking love you and I need you. Oh, great, good, because I need that. The problem was I would sometimes harbor resentment because I'd be like, you love me more than I love myself. I'm like, so now I'm really trying to do this thing where, I'm working to get myself in shape and create these habits for myself where I feel good about myself without needing someone else to draw on the right type of partner.
yeah.
Um, so I guess what I want to pose to you with regard to codependence is, what do you think we can do and should do as individuals to find ourselves not um, developing these unhealthy and toxic relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one thing that really comes to mind is that is if you want to do something, but someone says, "Oh, I don't think you should do that." No, you shouldn't just do it. I mean, to an extent that, right, I'm not saying if your partner is saying like, I don't want you to do that, because of this or this kind of thing, but just understand, really put it into value of, okay, is this really a lot? I mean, it's different if you say, I want to go sleep with this other person. Your person's like, I don't want you to do that. Then you saying, I I want to go I want to go to the beach with some friends for the weekend, but I don't really want you there because I want to be with my friends, right? And they say, I don't think that's a good idea, right? Or so, or that kind of aspect. Don't not go do that because your partner doesn't want you to, right? Like I feel like there's that aspect. There's that aspect, but also if you just want to be in your home, if you just want to be doing this and you just don't really want to also be around a human being, just because your partner is like, hey, do you want to hang out? Just try to remember, for me, is to try to avoid the codependency, is just try to really stick up for yourself, and if you realize, like, I don't really want to hang out kind of thing, but you do it just because that's what they want you to do, that's codependent. Like that's that kind of, I mean, I think that's like a codependency at a different level,
Well,
right?
see, and I tend to say the opposite of love isn't hate. The opposite of love is control, because um, to love someone is to accept them.
Yep.
Okay, and the fact that we're human beings, so no one is in this state of being perfected. You're a constant work in progress, and of course, some people are further along than others, and in their truth and in radiating a light in which you can be like, wow, look at this person shining in who they are. But I always think it's dangerous and toxic when you either come into someone's life and you try to actively change them, not necessarily for the better. That's good if you're doing it in an influential way of being like, I see these things in you and I see where you can improve, but in a way where you're trying to sort of fundamentally change who they are, whether it be forcing your will upon them, forcing anything upon them, unless it's consensual. There's some consensual force where it's like you're like, hey, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
That's different. But I'm just saying with regards to you know, not not accepting people who for who they are fundamentally, it's not love anymore. It's
Yeah.
almost abusive.
No, I agree. And honestly, that really brings to light of a relationship I had I like even before I moved here and such, I was in a long distance relationship, and they they it was very codependent in the sense that I valued them for a lot of the different reasons, right? There was this aspect of love that I needed, and they just showered me with, they love bombed me in so many ways, and I really mistook that for love. And I found myself, if they asked me, I'd rather you not go do stand up tonight because this is one of the times that we can talk on the phone, right? And so I found myself stopping to doing the things I like to give them that kind of attention, right? Or like to give that. And I found myself doing that a lot because I was like, you know what, that's not that big of a deal, right? Not that big of a deal. I'm like, okay, I don't have to, like, I do stand up almost every other night. Like, I don't have to do it tonight, right? Or whatever, or so, but not standing up for myself. I'm saying, no, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do, right? I didn't have that self love. I had that codependency of needing their love, and so if I if I went and did that, there's that risk of, oh, they're gonna get upset or so kind of thing or whatever, right? I'm gonna might lose them. I don't know. It wasn't until in that relationship, I gave up so much. But then it wasn't until the moment that they asked me to not do do something that was just the core of me, right? Something like, I don't like when you go and just talk to random people or go and give random hugs because you're just like, hi, can I give you a hug right now? Right? That's just me. And when they asked me, when they said, I would rather you not do that, that doesn't make me happy, that was it for me. I was like, no, no, that's a core thing about me. That's a core thing about me. I can't change. I'm not going to change that. It's something I love the most about myself. That was one thing I love the most about myself, is just bringing like light and joy, or just even just a platonic hug to someone, saying, dang, I really like your outfit. And they're like, oh, wow, thank you. Can I give you a hug right now? I'm like, yeah, of course.
Free
Just
hugs.
like that. And seeing that from a distance, that just upset them. They didn't want me to talk to random people or whatever, right? I mean, just for me, that when it came to that, realizing they wanted to change and they didn't want me to be my core self. And at the time, thank God, I mean, I'm thankful that I knew that that was something that I loved the most about me. I mean, there's so many other things that I love the most about me. And so it's easy for me to be like, no, I don't, I'm going to go do this, right? Like if someone now was like, I don't want you to go do stand up comedy, or I don't want you to go do that because you're going to be talking about me or whatever. I'm like, bitch, don't put
Right.
yourself on that high enough of a pedestal, right?
Right. So okay.
Yeah.
So there is something that you brought up with regards to, because that's a lot of insecurity. Okay. And I
Mhm.
do think many times, if you don't feel whole into yourself, if you're not able to find a way to provide that sort of validation on your own, in your own world, in your own practice, you do seek it out through either someone else love bombing you, or controlling someone else, so you feel like you have some sort of strength or some sort of power that you may not feel in your own world. But you brought something else up about long distance relationships specifically,
Mhm.
and I want to touch on that now, because I currently find myself drawn to long distance relationships, and currently feel like I am in a long distance relationship, even though it's not that. Because in the wake of my divorce, I was very emotionally needy. And I was also, later we'll get into red flags and green flags. And I feel like someone coming out of a divorce, huge red flag. I was an open wound emotionally. I was with my ex-wife in a totality of 8 years. Okay. And beforehand and in the marriage. But with regards to, even though it ended amicably, we get along well. She's an amazing person. Just recognizing the failure that was, creating, like, my wedding day was still one of the most, no, was the most beautiful day of my life, because it's contrived. You're spending, um, well, I should say, her father spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to make an amazing
Mm.
day. You spend a year to put together your favorite colors, all your favorite music, your favorite people, all these things to do this thing, and everyone, and together you're making this beautiful moment. And it really was that. Our whole family, several of which have passed since I was there. My grandmother, my ex-wife's Aunt Tina. There were a lot of people there that I'm glad they got to be a part of that whole thing. And for it to fall apart, because I got married in 2019, along with four other members of my fraternity that I know, and mine was the first marriage to dissolve, and it felt like fuck, man, like I'm a failure as a, I don't want to say as a man, but as a functioning member of society. Like as far as what you're all saying, I'm supposed to be able to do, because I didn't even get married till I was 40. Because I was out there fucking period. I was I was out there. I was out there and I couldn't commit. Like, I'll be honest with you. I
Be
feel
honest.
like anyone who gets married too early in their 20s feels kind of gay to me. Like, as far as like why, I don't get it. Maybe that's the wrong way to say it, but I just feel like I wouldn't have been ready at like 20, 18, 19. Like, oh, commit to the, don't ever have another sexual encounter. I couldn't do it. I
Yeah.
couldn't do it. And I was out there in my 20s and into my 30s, just like living life, not necessarily being a hoe, but like just living life.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit, but like, but like out there, just like not being able to commit everything. And then when I did it because it felt like the proper move. And we can get into that later with regard to a life partner, but I did it for the wrong reasons. So coming out of that, going back to this long distance relationship idea, I was very emotionally needy and found myself more drawn to this emotional connection that I needed and validation that I needed with regards to my art, my humor, my content, the things that I was putting out there. And I was creating relationships based on that. Not to mention, I started thinking, hey, maybe I'm ready to be a father. So a lot of women whose biological clocks were going off were like, yo, I want my baby to have your lips. I want, it was a thing. Um, so I guess the question becomes, when you think about long distance relationships, what are the pros and cons you see? And while you're discussing that, I'm gonna go pee. I'll be back.
Okay. Okay. One of the pros I think, and I think this is just specifically to myself, is that I there's a lot of independence I have in my life. And what I find difficult with being with someone who might be here is that there's sometimes I just want to go out and be with my friends for the night, right? I don't really want my partner there. I don't want to. I just want to go be with my people. That's a plus side of a long distance relationship. Is the fact that you can go just do your thing and it not be weird that your partner's not there because they're in a whole nother state. Um, I think a pro with it is that you have time to miss one another. And so it gives you that experience that when you are with one another, you can just take full advantage of it and you don't take for granted the time that you have with each other. But the con about it is that if you're both not secure, it's really tough. It's really tough. Yeah. If you're not secure, it's really tough to have it to be happy and healthy. Um, and at the same time, also, if you're a sexual being, that's a tough thing too. If you're in a monogamous thing, it's a tough thing. But if you're both are also in the same mindset of wanting something more of an open thing, that can be really plus side too. So it really just depends on the type of person you are, on the type of relationship you have, right? So like even, but you have to have that security. That's you have to have the safety, you have to have that security, you have to know that it doesn't even matter if my person is out meeting other people because I'm their person. I know I'm their person. Someone could meet them, be a little flashy new object or whatever for the moment, but it doesn't matter because I'm the vintage thing that people have to pay millions for, and they already have that. Why would they sell something for millions then sell something for a couple $100?
Okay, so now I think we're getting into some of the differences between the concept of monogamy
Mm-hmm.
and polyamory as it's stated, but I even have issues with those terms. So hold on one moment. I'm gonna write out polyamory. I don't know how to spell polyamory. How do you know?
POLYAMORY.
All right, here we go.
I
So
believe.
so
Fully
for
right.
me, I feel like polyamory is almost a misnomer because I am 100% a polyamorous uh, person in the sense of I love easily. I can love someone for who they are, man, woman, child, animal, love, love. Doesn't mean I need to fuck them. You know what I mean? It just
Well, I hope not in regards to the animal part, but
any of it. I'm just saying there's a difference. So I feel like sometimes, like, okay, so I
no.
tend to be more of a monogamous person with regards to um, my relationship style. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if you have several partners, which I'll also get into when I came up here, there was a point where someone really sort of presented the whole poly lifestyle to me and had said, hey, if you're with me, you can eat from the buffet. You just have to wear a bib, i.e., a condom. And I was like, I don't necessarily want to eat from the buffet with a bib. I just want my favorite cheeseburger raw. Just eat my favorite cheeseburger all the time, and I'm just like, good. It's like enough. So, and that's me, and I get it's different for everyone, but polyamory to me is just like the ability to love across a spectrum, which almost feels healthy. Like that's a good thing, I think. Like I don't even necessarily want to have sex with partners if I don't have love towards them. I don't want to. It's not
It's not consensual. Like it's consent, but without.
it's
Yeah.
not well, no. First off, if there's no consent when it ain't happening. But I'm talking about as far as just like it's there's an animalistic quality that I get. Horny happens. We're human beings. Horny is a fucking thing. But I'm just saying, like, if I don't like you, like, hate fucking is a thing. You know what I mean? I don't want to. I don't want to. Doesn't feel right. It feels like you're working out some of your issues. And I get like you had a fight, and like I'm so mad at you, and now we're taking it out here. Like I get it, but like I just mean with regards to like love and sex. So I feel like sometimes people use the term polyamory and it means almost like polygamy, like multiple partners sexually. That doesn't necessarily mean you're loving them all. That means you're fucking them all. You want to have many sexual partners because I get it because people are
They give you
different.
they give you different things.
100%. 100%. But that's
Yeah.
not amory necessarily. That's not amorous. That's not love. That's that's more lust based. That's sexuality.
See, and here's where I struggle with like a monogamous kind of relationship, right? And like this is because me coming from being more pansexual, right? Like I have love for male, female, trans, any just love for a human soul.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different things that like that a woman can provide that a man can't, right?
100%.
Yeah, kissing a woman is totally different than a male. And
Word.
so for me, it's that aspect of like where what I do love about the polyamory is that you can still have your person. Like, hey, this is my person. I fucking fudge and love this person so much. But there are times I just want to make out. I just want to have some fun with this female. There's sometimes I just want to have this sensuality
Yes.
with this a female, and I don't want because I'm in this. I don't want that to stop me from experiencing that.
I'll
It's
tell
not.
you something too, and this may be just personal. I could never not understand if a woman was like, "Oh, I'm sexually attracted to women." It's like, yeah, they are the best. Like I'm like, of
Right.
course you are. Why? How could you not be? They're beautiful pieces of art. Uh, Men
Yeah.
are very utilitarian. It's like we want us to carry some shit, and I get it, but like women are just gorgeous. It's different.
They're pretty great. They're pretty great.
It's
I'm not gonna
different.
lie. But again, though, not even on the aspect of women, because you can be with someone, love them full heartedly, and you might realize, over time, you have these different things that turn you on sexually in the bed, right? In regards to kinks, so to speak, right? So you might have this kink that you really like, and you've had different partners before that are super into that kink. You're like, oh god, and that's great. But you might just find your person, and they're like, yeah, that's not really my thing, right? And then you're stuck. You're like, well, shoot, I just realized I really like this thing in the aspect of sex. But I would rather be with you than not be with you because of this kink or this thing, if that makes sense.
It
Right?
does. It does. No, it does with regard to that's what I'm talking about, the amorous part. Love transcends a lot of these things. It's very complicated. And I think we should start delving into these different aspects of love. But
Yeah.
even before we do, because now we're talking about romantic love, we're getting into the romance of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think before we even do the many different aspects, we have to start with the very first way we experience romantic love. And I call that young love. Okay. So, in the sense of like that first taste, that first person in life, high school, junior high, whatever it might be. For some people, it's like grade school. It might be kindergarten. It's like you meet someone, you're like, what is this? You're like, what is happening? And it's you don't have any context. Like you're just like, mom and dad, you don't know what this is. We are experiencing something you don't even know, and it's just that first you're bitten by it. But I do think it's a honest love as well. You know,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, shoot, I remember my first love, even before we met. I mean, it was like middle school. You're like, oh, you like me? Okay, let's date. And then it's like 2 weeks and then you're done, right? I don't even consider that the young love. It wasn't until actually just right before my diagnosis of my ulcerative colitis, so roughly the age of 13, that I met or I started engaging with my first young love. And one thing that was so unique about that one was because there was this aspect that we just had the same banter. Like I could just be my authentic self, they could be their authentic self, and we could kind of give each other shit, but in the best way, like ha ha ha, in the laughter way. But then at the same time, during that, I got my diagnosis of ulcerative colitis.
Mhm.
And one thing that really put on it was that. Right? So I'm over here having stomach pains, I'm having this. And one thing I loved the most about them is that they were so caring about that. I just remembered them finding things out like, oh, to help your stomach feel better? You didn't rub it this way. So then when we'd be together and my stomach would be in pain, they would, we'd be with their little cousins, nieces, or nephews playing and stuff, and I'd start getting pain and start exerting blood from my rectum or whatever. They'd be like, hold on, we need to, we're stop, like, all right, we're gonna play in a little bit later. And then they'd take that time to give me that moment, and they'd rub my stomach. They'd like make sure they just had that essence of like, are you okay? Like in that aspect. And it went from just like I like you to the other 2 week relationship things before when you're young to like I want you to be okay. Like I'm gonna do whatever you need. You need this. I'm there for you. And that, you know, that
That's
was that.
love.
That's love. That's love. But
Absolutely.
when you're hurting, I'm hurting.
Yes.
That's that kind of love. Yeah.
Right. Recognizing, and that's so much, and I love that is something that was recognized at such a young age, because so much of what a relationship is wanting to help that partner heal and feel better and move past these things that are hurting them or bringing them down. Like that's fucking is true
Yeah.
love. That's fucking true love. You can't take that away. You can't say anything. And that's something a child recognizes.
Yeah. But at the same time, you know, we were so young. We were so young, and something I've looked back on it now and is that is unconsciously they put their needs eh, they put my needs ahead of their own.
Right.
And
Yes.
that came out later, right? And that came out in a really dark way.
See,
Them accepting that.
and to
Yeah.
me, that's that codependency again, but you don't even have
Just
the
out of love.
you don't even know. So at that age you don't know, because
Don't.
there's stuff we can get into later with regards to love languages and expressing it, but at that age it's not even there yet. It's you're raw.
Mhm.
But there are multiple types of love to be experienced through life if you leave yourself open to meeting different people. And one of the ones that I think happens quite often is what I like to call um, the twin flame. Okay. And a twin flame love to me is when you meet a person and you're like, yo, you're just like me. We connect on this level where we're just like, we enjoy the same things. We vibe. And we're like, it's so passionate because we flow in this wavelength that we're going through. And then if you're fucking or whatever, you clearly heighten that intensity of that feeling. The problem is you might be radiating together on that level because you're both drug addicts, you're alcoholics, you're binge eaters, you are murderers, Bonnie and Clyde. It could be any of these things where it's like, oh, we're the same. So there's no checks and balances. Um, so of course it's going to be intense if you're like, and I'm sexually attracted to you. It's this intensity to it all, but it can suck all the oxygen out of the room because eventually life is going to hit. You're going to have to pay the bills. You're going to have to sober up. You're going to have to go to work. You're going to have to deal with life and whatever. And if you're not dealing with that stuff, well, the world is there in wait for you. So twin flames to me feels almost like a toxic love.
Mm, interesting. And would you say, so let me bring this up though too. Let's say yes, they do all these things, drugs, all that stuff kind of thing. But
Yeah.
outside of that, they still have this love for one another. Even when they're completely sober, not doing all the other stuff that they do also like to do together. And they still have that love for each other. Would you also say that's toxic?
No, that's the love. The love is love. I think we've done a good job defining love. But sometimes if we
Mhm.
have already accepted the fact that self-love is the root to an honest love for one another, sometimes if you're doing things that hurt you, then you aren't fully giving yourself that self-love because sometimes things you enjoy are bad for you. Of course, vices. Our,
Oh,
our
yeah.
vices are fun. Our vices are part of why we're human. We're in this in-body experience right now. And you find someone you're like, oh, you enjoy drinking, you enjoy substances, you enjoy whatever it is.
You're not seeing this in a negative light. You see this in a
Right,
positive.
right.
Let's get it on. Yeah.
Of
No,
course.
absolutely.
So twin flames to me, it's like an inferno. It's a passionate inferno. But then it can suck all the oxygen out of the room because Monday is coming. You know what I mean? Your real world is coming. All those deadlines in the world around you is going to be happening. So it's like if you guys are twin flames over something healthy, I don't even know what that looks like. Like what? You're both into running marathons? Like I don't get it.
I mean, yeah.
That
I mean, and I personally, I don't know too much on like the description of like a twin flame. My take from what I do know of it is the fact that you are very similar, the same kind of type of person, right? And so and and when I say that, I'm not trying to describe it in the sense of what you do actively, but how you think, you how you view world, how like your values, your morals, that can also be into play, right? Because substances, that could just be a matter of you going through your own shit right now, and they could be going on through their own shit too, because you might have that like the twin flame, right? Maybe it's you guys are also going through some shit the same timeline, and you're going through this darkness. If
Mhm.
you can still go through that darkness, if you can still get out of that darkness and start living a more healthier life, but still want each other in one another's lives and still view that love together and have that love for one another, I think that could be a positive twin
Well,
flame.
which brings me to the yes, I agree.
And it's
But that
not. It's
right,
not.
and that brings me to I think another type of love which I call the golden thread. So a golden thread love to me is sometimes in life you meet a person who seems like they've gone through almost a parallel life's journey.
Yeah.
You just meet them and you're like, oh my god. You're like, oh, your parents were like this, yes. Oh, you've gone through X, Y, and Z experiences, yes. Oh, you're trying to do this and this and this to cope, yes. Oh, you have this, and you're like, well, I want you in my life because I've never met anyone as similar as me. So you're almost it's almost a little egotistical. Not necessarily in a negative way, but just in a way of like you don't very often meet people who have had parallel life journeys, you know?
Yeah.
And I've met someone like that. I met her. She online and we were like, oh my goodness, you and I have gone through very similar things. And online, we were like developing a love affair because we're like, wow, we both had our little meme accounts and all these things and we talked a lot. And then we met up in real life. And almost immediately, I was like, oh, I'm not necessarily fully romantically attracted to you in real life.
Mm,
I still fully acknowledge this soul in your vessel that I was drawn to and loved that energy, that essence that I saw. And I'm not going to um, deny that because I'm not fully attracted to what I see, especially as someone who's like, I ballooned up and I've lost weight and all these things. Like I get it, and that's very it's a temporal state of being with your body or whatever. But I was like, I still love this person you are. Um, but it's not necessarily the totality of what someone's looking for. Now, it might be for someone else. You're like, oh, you're just like me. That's enough. That's all I need. But
Yeah.
for me, I want and need and demand more than that. I demand more than that, and unapologetically. Okay, it's like I fucking
Yeah.
demand more. I want more. I know there's more, and so I guess the question would be this: with this golden
I understand.
thread of finding someone who is just like you, that is a type of love. But do you think that it is a valid love that could be a lasting love?
Ooh. Ooh, hmm, that's interesting. Um, I've I've also kind of experienced what I would call of my golden thread love, and one thing I did for me, not only did we go through similar life experiences, I mean, I met their people where they told me about their family, and I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of similarities in my family. There, no, I had we had that all. One thing, for me was that a reflection, because everyone's a reflection of yourself. And they reflected everything I loved the most about myself. But honestly, I mean, it's tough to answer that question because one thing that wasn't there, um, and I mean to an extent, uh, was there was this level of like when it came to this sex aspect, right? Or so, and again, not to say sex is everything, but long term, it can be something because there is something with the aspect of of sex. And it wasn't even that I wasn't necessarily sexually attracted to them. I think there was a part that they weren't necessarily sexually attracted to me. And then like on my aspect, I mean, kind of bring it back to, they might not be into some of the same things I'm into.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. One thing I did love about that was that we did have an openness. Uh, I think the downfall about that is as sometimes as much as we are okay with that, if we're feeling even a slightness of insecurity, it um, can really affect that aspect of having that openness,
A
right?
hundred
Like,
percent. It's all, and this is why I think people are almost mistaken in jumping into these marriages and these long-term relationships when you're too young. You're not fully developed. You haven't experienced enough life yet, and I feel like we're almost conditioned to be like, okay, our parents and grandparents, a lot of them married their first love, their young
mm,
love, and they either had a dysfunctional relationship throughout their life, or they got divorced, or they created trauma within their children and grandchildren. So I think it's healthy to know these different types of love, have this polyamory, to be able to say, hey, I'm discovering myself before you make these lasting partnerships. But there is
yeah,
something said about these conjoined souls with this golden thread. Like you're part of an energy that exists beyond this temporal plane. And you meet them, and like, yeah, you're gonna fucking love them because you're like, I see you in a very honest way. Okay.
yeah,
But I
mm,
don't think that golden thread love is necessarily the same as the word that gets thrown around way too often, which is a soulmate love. Okay,
mm.
because to me, which P.S. by the way, Jill Whipple says that's one of my best friends. Go, Kirsten.
Oh, hey, Jill,
Okay,
love you.
so but listen, so for me, the whole concept of a soulmate doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic love. Your
I was
soulmate,
just that.
your soulmate might be your brother or your sister. Your
Yeah.
soulmate might be your best friend. Your
Yeah.
soulmate might be your fucking dog. Okay? Your
Yeah.
soulmate is just this life force that fully fully gets you, understands you, and makes you feel whole, that makes you feel home, that hurts when you're apart. It, it's so deep that it's hard to define in words. And I only think I've felt that type of love now at 45. Okay. I was 44, turning 45. I don't think I ever knew it. And it was coming out of my marriage, and someone reached out to me. Uh, Shout out to you if you're watching this. And literally may have known my art and what I was doing and was maybe a fan. And when I was like, I'm getting divorced and I'm moving, was very quick to be like, yo, I want to know you. I've been wanting to know you and I'm here. And even the red flag that I was like, well, I'm getting divorced. And I was a fucking horrible person. Or I should say I was a raw saying like, I'm in no position to be in a start a relationship. I am
Mhm.
mourning my failed marriage and will need time. I didn't do that because I was very needy. But like the fact of just being like that type of love where it's like, oh, you connected me on a multitude of layers, which to me, um, I view relationships as like relationships got four legs, like a table or a sheep. Okay, you got you got to connect physically. Okay, like you have to be sexually attracted to one another. You got to be like
Also, I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna let you continue because now I have to be.
pee. Let me talk. You go pee.
You go, you go, you go. I'll be back. I'll be back.
I'm gonna talk to the people.
You
Okay,
talk to the people.
I'm gonna talk to the people. Hold on. We're gonna hide our entire shit. Check it out, people. You and me time. How we doing? You good? Hey, thank you for tuning into this show. This back here, that's my Muse painting. Okay. What that's about is I thought about like the manifestation of what creatively I needed with regards to it. Yes, it's a manifestation of a woman, but it's more of an energy of being that when I'm doing things creatively, I'm either trying to draw it out from the imaginary or the mind and into the world. So, you know, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and then the manifestation of all being melded into one with the waters. Um, Anywho's sorry. Okay, but so when I'm thinking about like the many aspects of love that may constitute a soulmate, you got physicality first because you got to be attracted. Duh. Okay. Then intellectual equivalency because you got to be able to talk to the other person as a friend. Two legs, the physical leg, the intellectual leg. Then I talk about emotional stability. Now, the majority of my life, I've been the unstable one. Okay. I've gone through a lot of shit and I'm not fully healed. I'm working on it, but I haven't been the healthiest partner for someone to be with. And then lastly, I say a spiritual respect for one another. Myself, I'm Jewish, not necessarily a Zionist, but Jewish in the sense of I want to turn towards positivity, the good, to be a positive force in the world. So I want that in the person I'm with, especially if we're going to talk about like having kids together or creating a life together. So physically, I gotta be attracted. Intellectually, we gotta be able to talk. Emotionally, let's work on our shit together. Uh-oh, she's back. Pow! Where you at, Kirsten?
Right here. I'm back. I'm back.
So I'm just saying, I'm saying for these deeper soulmate love, physically, you got to be attracted. Intellectually, you got to be able to click to be friends. Emotional stability, you don't got to be perfect, but you got to be working on your shit together so you're not trying to be someone's nurse or what's another?
Midline.
Yeah, or psychologists. Like you got to be able to work through stuff together. And then lastly, a spiritual respect for another, which is either if you're religious, ideally you're of the same ilk, or if you're not. But it's like the junk drawer. Your views on family, okay? Your parents, concept of children, money, politics, these things that are very foundational into who you are as a person. You got to have all that shit. And then you break out the sex. So if that's the four legs of the sheep or the the table, the sex is the tablecloth. You're like, oh, we're good. All these, oh, bam! You slap that shit on after. You're like, you want to keep coming here? You want to keep coming to this table? Like it's like right? You break it out afterwards. You're like, okay, because it's gonna kick everything up a notch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's gonna make shit a lot more rich. Okay, like a good cheese.
Yeah.
So
Um,
soulmate. To me. That's the idea of like if you have that love, that's very hard to find. It's a love that almost hurts to be apart from that person because you recognize how rare that type of connection is. You don't find that very often.
yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too. And I'll even kind of dive in. I just kind of got this thought too, and even what I spoke about earlier with the sense of you and that person in like, well, let's say, is you also, like I said, you need, it kind of dives again into that self love because you realize you need to have this self love in the sense that if they do something, it's not going to make you feel, they do something that has nothing to do with you, but you could take that on as it's, you could take that, if you don't have that self love for yourself or so, you can take that personally in this
Well,
in the
well,
aspect.
of course. I mean, it also comes down to the dynamic and the expectations of the relationship you've established.
Yeah.
But it okay, so here I think this bleeds in to something else that needs to be discussed, which is the five love languages. Okay? Because this is something that I think may be newer. Like this might have been something that just like came up in the 80s or 90s or thousands, really. But it's so true because when I got married, I married someone who seemed like the most stable woman to ever love me. Okay. And I was like, oh, well, I should lock this down because I tend to be attracted to a fucking stripper with a habit. And this is a very put together woman who really appreciates who I am as a white rapper. so,
Oh, I,
yeah. So I was like, oh, well, I should probably marry her. Well, that speaks to something else, which we'll get into after. But it wasn't until after having merged our lives where I realized, oh, our love languages don't necessarily mesh. But it wasn't something that I really knew until this. So let me ask you, have you heard of the five love languages?
yeah, yeah. I did the tests and all, and everything. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I think my number one is physical touch.
Okay, so let's start there, okay? Because I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, we'll go through them one by one. So
Okay.
the first one is, like you said, oh, Oh, let me update. Physical touch. Okay. Now, uh, physical touch doesn't necessarily have to mean sexuality. Of course, of course it does, though. Of course it does. It's there.
So,
I mean, come on. We all look. Okay. Earmuffs. Okay. Don't listen. Don't listen what I'm about to say.
okay.
Okay. Ready? Pretend.
Here, actually, let
The
me.
listener, ready? Thank you. Thank you to the listeners. To the listeners at home. Um, just know that, of course, of course, stroking it well is going to be something that is very key and imperative in a relationship.
Mhm.
But it's not. Hey, are you?
Oh, oh, excuse me. I
But it's,
forgot.
but it's not. But it's not everything. So don't just make this something sexual. Okay, you can take them off now. We're gonna take them off.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
So what physical touch means also it means cuddling, loving, holding your partner. And as someone who grew up poor, that was how I showed love. You know what I mean? Like it's like I love you. Of course I'm going to hold. Mwah! I like you, fucking beautiful bitch. I fucking love you. Yeah, mwah, that's a real thing. Just that, hey, and then we're hanging out and we're holding hands through the Target, and like at night, I want to cuddle you, and I'm gonna, spoon against you, or I'm gonna be holding on to you, and I got my hand around your waist, and I'm touching you, or even if I'm turned the other way because I want to fall asleep. Maybe I'm going to put my foot against your calf. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
like literally just like it just touch because it's like you're here and I love you and I want you to feel safe and I want you to know that we're good, you're good.
Yes. Yeah.
It's right. That
Yeah.
that that
And
is a love language.
and I'm glad you brought that up because like me, I love this. I'm now going to this place of like I sleep on my back,
Yes,
right? I as much as I love to be cuddled and such in situation, I can't fall asleep that way because all I'm thinking of is my head too heavy on you? Is this uncomfortable with you? But you're not saying anything because it's cuddling or so, right? I mean, if I'm laying there and I go and I put my foot against them or so, that's just me saying, "Hey, just so you know, like I'm still here. I still love you." They
right.
pull away. I'm like, oh God, right? Like it's that aspect of like, hey, like I just want, like, I'm loving you. I'm here, but I'm not right, right
A
there. Or
100%. Like I think it's the difference between that codependency we were talking about earlier and just like saying that's why I said it's not just sexual, which I know you didn't hear any because you had earmuffs on. But I'm saying like of course, of course, splotch is an expression of your love.
yeah,
100%. But I'm
yeah,
just saying it's not just that. And sometimes, in fact, sexuality is weaponized. And it's not about love at all anymore. It's about
mm,
power. It's about
ooh,
control. It's about a manifestation of your insecurity. And you're using it in a way that is tarnishing and making something that should be beautiful ugly. And in fact, one thing that I give to the Christians, and I'm saying this in a way where I don't fully ascribe to the Christian umbrella, but one thing that I do think you have right is this: sexuality has. Hold on, someone's knocking on my door. Put a pin in sexuality and talk to the people for a moment.
Okay. So, man, I'll say kind of going off his sense of like the aspect with sex and being a sense of control. For me, for a long time, because of different sexual traumas that I had in my lifetime, I would just have sex because that's what they want. I mean, I would have sex because if I said no, I didn't want to risk my life. I don't know, whatever. There's trauma in that aspect. And so I found I had a really unhealthy relationship with sex. Personally, I thought because of going through what I went through and what I talked about earlier in this podcast was is like having that 6 month point and having no sex, and having I felt more empowered to say no and that that's okay in a sense. But I've realized even in a recent relationship is that that hasn't been fully healed because I've put too much pressure in the sense of sex, right? In the sense that sex is all needed, and that could relate to different. That I know has I've reflected on the fact that that has a lot of different trauma to it that's gone through my life, and that if I can't provide sex, then they're not going to love me, and so I've it's affected it's affected some of my relationships because we have all that love, we had that security, we had all of that, but still because maybe the sex part wasn't as great, I let that take over and let that minimize all the other love that we had with one another. Because really, like, sex isn't that big of a thing. Like, honestly, something that some wise wisdoms that my sister had told me when I was younger. She's gonna slap me for saying this, but is that you can honestly get yourself off sometimes better than someone else can. So really, sex with someone else is not that big of an issue, kind of thing.
Well, hold on. Let me interject something up because
And then
everything you said is so important, but also it is of value. It is important, but it's not everything. It's not love. It is a love language, though, or it is part of a love language. But it
mhm.
too often is um, a misnomer for love. So, for instance, you can have someone who's like your greatest sexual partner. Let's say you're like, oh, this is the truest love of my life. You're like, no, that's the best dick. you know, you know, or,
There's lust and there's love.
right. That's what
There's
I'm
lust.
saying. Like you meet someone, you're like, oh, this is the best pussy. This is the greatest love of my life. No, not necessarily. It just this is the greatest sexual chemistry. Hence,
Mhm.
why it's part of a love language. And like I said, growing up poor, it's like what you had. It was like you're like, you know what the best dick they say out there is? Drug dealer dick. You know why? Because they ain't out here. They don't have the fucking stability, the money, the status. So what they have to offer you is fucking the sex to be like, yo, this is me showing you my worth. And honestly, to a certain extent, I identified with that because as someone who's like, I don't ascribe to the whole white collar societal norms of status. So I did see a lot of my value in my voracious sexuality. Like a lot of that when I was like, okay, once It's like this is the relationship I've established. Then I felt like I had power in that relationship. And I was like, okay. It's a whole thing too. It's like, okay, we identify, we vibe, and now I'm gonna make you fucking have multiples. It's like, I got you. I got power now. You know what I mean? But it's not necessary. That's not love. That's power.
Mm-hmm.
That's trying to like get some sense of control, which is also not love. That's my shadow self. Red flag.
Mm-hmm.
This is also my shadow self, recognizing that part of myself that's like, that's not love. Hence, I'd get myself into relationships because I'm a loving person. And then I'd want to approach the situation where it's like, well, I'm going to go into this trying to be the best that you've experienced. And then I'm not going to be attached because I'm fucked up. I'm not complete.
Mm-hmm.
And that's unhealthy. That's unhealthy and it creates issues. So it's just an aspect. It's a love language. But when I say physical touch, is what I was trying to say. It's not just sex.
Right, right, right. But here's the thing though too, and I think this is where like your your love language can really takes an effect to your relationship because you can have all the greatness and stuff, but if your main love language is physical touch and they don't like to be touched or they don't give that or is not willing like they're not willing to compromise and try to give that to you, that's when you might be secure enough in yourself, but if they're not giving you what you need in order to feel love and just the aspect of physical touch and the aspect of just give me a hug and the aspect of just like oh right like if they're turning over and they're not touching you in your body in any way even your toe their toe to your calf or whatever if they just want to just completely remove themselves they get weird about you being that's gonna that's gonna make you feel not great about yourself.
Facts.
You know?
Hence, what I was talking about with money, because I know with my ex, her biggest love language had to do with the fact of how she grew up, and hers was acts of service. Okay, it's because she was Filipina and she grew up in a military family, and they were very much like the rigidity of like don't ask too many questions, do what you're told, this is what it is, do this and that. And I know like there were issues with our intimacy or our expectations of intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And but for her, like I would wake up Sunday morning. It's like 8 a.m. I open my eyes. She's doing my laundry. She's like I got socks and underwears and and undershirts on deck. Like even now, to an extent of like these things of just like her doing these things to show me. Like I don't expect a
But
friend to do this. It's her doing these things to be like, I fucking love you, and I am going to make sure you are provided for in these ways, whether it be cooking. And I cook. I'm a cook. I'll do dishes, things like that. I don't even think about it in a sense of like, oh, I'm showing you I love you. It's just like it is love. It's like without even thinking about it, like I'm going, you hungry? I'm gonna feed you. There's I'm gonna feed you, fuck you. Like these things are just there. It's like I'm going to do these things because you're my person and I want you to know. I want you to feel good and be happy and satiated. So she was doing these things that like, I'm gonna take care of you, right? It's very nurturing.
yeah.
But that's a love language of more of a distanced culture or a distance type of way. It's like I'm going to show you things, but not necessarily physical. It's just like me letting you know that this is for you.
But hey, that there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I think what I want to just kind of say with this too is the importance of knowing one another's love languages. And not only knowing, but knowing where what their number one is to what their number five is, right? Because my number one could be their number five,
Right.
right? It's still in the bases, so that's still good. If their number one is the acts of service, and I don't know that, I would just think, oh, they're just doing this for whatever. But in your kind of case, if I knew that that's their number one way, and if they stop doing that, that's when I would see, okay, they don't love me as much because they're not doing that form of acts of service, right? Whereas if mine is physical love, and I know there's this physical touch, I mean, I wouldn't take it but if there's this acts of service and they're doing all this acts of service and the physical touch is there, maybe not there all the time. I'm showing my ways of how I view it and they're okay with that. They might not give it to me, but they're like, hey, I want to help clean your place or I want to
Mm-hmm.
do dishes. I'm like, holy cannoli, wow, thank you, like that's amazing. But they're not doing it because they're judging you. They're not doing it, they just want to do it because they just want that's their way of viewing love, right? And
It's
so yeah,
it's almost it's not necessarily even cultural, but it's just different. It's like how you're raised, what you know.
hardwired.
Well,
How
okay,
hardwired. And could be raised too, it could raising
a
could be
hundred percent.
but I think the hardwired is a big thing, right?
Well, okay,
Being raised is because if you're raised one way and you don't ever realize this point of like, oh, I don't actually like that, and I'm an adult now and I can do whatever I want, I'm going to do what I want. That's different. Then that's your hardwire. If you want to do
well,
it.
okay. So the biggest one that really kind of threw me for a loop because it was so different than anything I was used to growing up was gift giving and receiving. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is very much tied to privilege and affluence. I grew up poor. Okay. So the whole concept of like me showing my love through buying you things was nothing I knew. I lived most of my life without getting gifts from my parents. I bought myself braces at 38.
Wow. You're
Okay, so like the whole idea of like, um, I'll buy you like people are like, oh, you're 16, here's a car. What? No, I was not that at all. There's a reason I'm a white rapper, is because I grew up in a way where when I make music and stuff, it's like I can speak to not the struggle. I can speak to the struggle more than some people are like, oh, you are black. Do you identify the struggle? No. I had a black girlfriend for 8 years who was very privileged. She was from Minneapolis. I grew up in LA and some fucking homeless shelters, hard ass shit that affected my psyche to this day and who I am. And it's not anything that has to do with race. It has to do with economics. And my ex-wife came from money. So once a month with her and her family, we would have family gatherings. So let's say there were certain events where it's like a lot of birthdays in this month, or Mother's Day this month, or anniversaries, Father's Day, this holiday, that holiday. We would have these events. We'd get a nice meal together. It would be her and I, her parents, her sister and her husband, and his mother and father. Okay. So it's like all these different generations of like relationships within the family. And we would have these nice meals. And beforehand, though, there'd be these email chains that go out and they'd be like, what do you want for your gift? Not like I'm going to get you something from the heart that I've heard you want. And it's like, no, what do you want, motherfucker? And then we would get them that. Whether some of it just be gift cards to a place, or you want these things where I'm going to put in and get you these gifts. But it was a love language for sure,
Yeah.
separate from the whole physicality and the things that I was used to as someone who didn't have money. And it was a way of them being able to do it separate from the vulnerability of exposing yourself in a way that, you're like, I want you to know I love you in this way, where it's like it makes you emotionally vulnerable. You know what I mean? It was just a way of like, here, I'm going to buy you this thing. And it was cool.
And hey, and again, I think it just really brings back to the point of what I said of understanding that that's their love language. Because they could just get you a gift that they think you might want. You might get it, and you're like, okay, thanks. But what I'm hearing from this is that they're like, hey, what do you want? Like, I want to give you what you want. And that's, again, kind of bringing it back to that love aspect of like, hey, you want this? I will find a way to provide it to you, kind of thing. And so I see where you're coming from, in the sense that you might think this as like more of a superficial type of, or like base level type of thing, but to them that could have just been them genuinely wanting to give you what you want and
100%.
what they think you want, right? Because I mean, hey, the longest time, I didn't even have a 9 to 5. I was just an artist living like, I hope I can do enough of these paint parties that I can make my rent this month, right? And so for me, like, but also at the same time, one of my second things for me of how I show love is by giving gifts,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, even with my 9 to 5, I work in nonprofit and social work aspects. You're not doing it for the money, right?
Right.
I'll just say that. But for me, is that I use my art, like I use what I have, like, and if someone wants this, I'm like, hey, you take it. I mean, there's a plus side because I I have some hoarder tendencies, so there's a plus side. If someone likes these sunglasses and I've only worn them a couple times, knowing that, I'm like, hey, you take it. Because that's like my way of showing, like, I want to just give you what I like to give to others. Like,
100%. And what I tend to find is givers, if that's more your nature, you tend to draw takers into your life, right? Because you're like, this is my nature. I like to give, especially, and you find these people, and they're not saying anything disparaging about them as a person, but just their nature can tend to be more of a taker, you
yeah,
know, and it's a natural fit.
yeah,
Like they say, ideally, if a giver and a giver meet, woo, then it's dynamic. But generally, if you're a giver, a taker shows up, and you're like, oh, this is symbiotic. This sort of just works,
they're accepting my love.
right?
What
The
they
way
think
you show
in
love,
the moment,
correct?
the way I
Correct.
show love, they're accepting it. And then and then when they, when the love I'm giving, let's say it's, I'm providing them drinks or so, and then they decide I no longer want to drink or so, but and then they cut you out of your life. Now all you're thinking is, then that can ruin your, that can make you start feeling like shit about what you just giving what you have.
Right.
I don't know if that's the best way of saying it. I mean, it can make you think like, was I just being used during
Right.
that time? And
And to an extent,
it
you were. To an extent, you
yeah.
were.
And then it makes you question, and then that's the only downfall, is because now you're losing the part of yourself that you are, and the sense of gifting, because now you're questioning, oh, do they only like me because I gift them this, because I am such one to gift and gift and gift. right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not doing that, but then also saying like, hey, I just love you for you. You're fucking amazing. You're great. You're great in this. This is also just a plus side of it all. Then that's cool.
Okay,
Right?
so
Like
so
that.
here's wait a second, hold on. This thing is fighting me. Wait a second. Wait a second. My crawler's not doing what I wanted to do.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm gonna
yeah.
fix it. Don't worry. There we go.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
the love episode.
Mhm.
So so the next thing I want to talk about is words of affirmation as a love language.
Mm.
Because I do think it's important. And I know this is another one that was big to me is just communication.
Yeah.
Let you know I see you, I see this about you, I see this, that, and the other, and I'm attracted to it in a real sense, not sexually, although it all comes back to sexually generally if you're wired that way. Okay. But I just mean like in a sense of like, it's like I'm attracted to these things about you and I respect these things about you and I admire these things about you and I want to emulate these things about you and all these things. And that is when it resonates with who you're trying to be.
Mm.
And you're like, look at this person seeing these things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
It makes me a little wet. It makes me a little hard. It's like, like,
Oh yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
it's like, okay, they get it. They see what I'm out here doing. Cool.
Mm.
That's a love language. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, I am doing these things and it resonates with you. Splash. Like it's like, all right, cool. Or as a man, like I why physiologically I'm having a response, like that is something there in just feeling seen.
Yeah. For who
Okay.
you are.
It's
Yeah.
it's love. It's not, that's what I say. Even if it is a
Even if it's in a work environment.
right, that's what I'm saying. It's not even just that, but it is
All
it's
this
love.
stuff.
It's love.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't
You
even
know,
think you're gonna say more on it than that. It's like that's
it is because the thing is that they can give you all that. They can give you in a relationship aspect, right? They can give you, they can tell you all of that. And if you genuinely feel that that's authentic in the sense of what they're saying, they're not just saying it because they know that's what you want to hear.
right.
And that could get into that aspect, right? They're saying it because they genuinely feel that way. That can help those little moments of you questioning the relationship because they turn their back because they want to go to sleep and they're not touching your body, right? You're not like, oh my god, they hate me. What's up? Blah, blah, blah. You're like, no, 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 they love me. Or when they
You've had those words of affirmation, it's absorbed. So it's
yeah,
like, okay, I'll tell you right now, when I'm ready to go to sleep, I may hug my pillow and turn my ass directly toward you and just be like, I sometimes I can't touch my partner when I'm trying to sleep because it arouses me. So
no,
sometimes I have to just be like, look, I'm going to sleep. We ain't cuddling now. I'm fucking turning that way. It ain't got nothing to do with you except I'm literally sleepy. Good night. We'll talk tomorrow.
honestly, I completely understand.
Right.
I completely understand because I had to kick them out of my whole house.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need at least this amount of sleep, and if you're even in the vicinity right now, I'm gonna get that sleep. So you need to get the fuck out of here. You need to go home.
I'm with it.
So
So
I get that. I
so
get I get that.
Right. So
Get that.
hence the fifth love language, which is quality time. Okay.
Mm,
And quality time to me is so important.
yeah.
It might just be like we were talking about long distance earlier. We're going to watch a movie together. We're going to hang out and talk while I'm cooking. We're going to talk on my drive home. Uh, this weekend, it's like dating, you know? You want to go
Mhm.
get coffee, you want to grab something to eat. Um, you want to enjoy each other's company away from sexy time. Like you want to see that I want to like I work a 9 to
Yeah.
5. Yeah, so like I got 20 hours on a weekend to fill. And aside from
Mhm.
laundry, cooking, the things I have to do. So if I'm like, hey, you want to watch a movie? You want to grab lunch? You want to do something? That says to me, oh, this person is choosing me.
Mm, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's sexy,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
It's
No, I know.
sexy. It's sexy. It's like, all right, what are we doing? Getting coffee and donuts. It's like it's not super it's but it's like, oh, they want to make this they want to share their time with me. That's a love language,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
So
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Because I mean, yeah, I mean, because it also tailors in this sense, and I'm speaking on like me as a human, right? Most of the time during the week, I need my time. I need my time, but at the same time, I like quality time as well, right? And so if I'm with a partner who also just needs their time, it's like I'm an introvert extrovert.
mhm.
If I'm with someone who is also similar in that aspect, like understanding that. And so when we do have our time, it could be like 12 hours of just straight up just communicating, hanging out kind of thing.
Watching a show.
Not even watching a show. I mean, that, but see, this is where I have an interesting thing with watching a show because and this has to do with just even things that I've like heard like psychologically all that kind of thing. Watching a show that's actually that's where the least you could be doing it at the same time, but that's the least connectivity that you can be having with someone.
Mm.
Just watching a show. Watching a show, watching a movie, that's where the least connectivity has, right? Not to say there's not any connectivity with it. That's one of the least, right? If you're there, there may be some music going on kind of thing. You might dance with each other. That's even more than just watching the show because you're dancing. You still have this like physical aspect, bodily, whatever, and communication. But when you're watching a show, I mean, think of how many people are watching a show and they get really aggravated when someone's talking during the show,
Sure.
right? So there that removes any connectivity. If they don't like someone talking or they're not going to be talking. There's no connectivity. You could be watching the same show and then 2 days later talk about that show. That's more connectivity than you guys watching it together at the
Fair.
same,
I hear that. So,
right?
okay.
But I will say at the same time, in the sense that I could have all this time with my person, right? I could have all this time with my person for the weekend. But then there's sometimes that I'm like, I don't even care if I want to talk, but I just want to be around you. Those are those moments that I'm like, can we just put on a show and I just want to
Mhm.
be up against you, cuddling, or I just want to be like close to you. I just want to be touching your body, and we do nothing but just watch this show. We don't have to talk because my social battery is not to the level of wanting to talk. I just want to be around you still. That also ties into the quality of time, in my opinion. In my
No,
opinion.
no, absolutely. But
Mhm.
okay, so and that I think leads into the final thing I want to talk about today, which is the concept of life partners. Okay, because I
Mm.
think
Mhm.
a lot of these relationships we see lasting, these 50-year marriages, sometimes are non-romantic. And that's a turnoff when you're young, because when you're young, sexuality, passion is all you think life, you think that's the pinnacle.
Hormones.
It is.
Mm.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It is in a lot of ways. And ideally, you want that. And I do think you find it in the concept of a soulmate. But I think a
Mhm.
lot of these marriages that happen with their young loves are more of a life partner relationship. And
Mm.
I know with my ex, it was an intellectual decision we made. She
Mhm.
was in a position where she wasn't able to have children. I was a writer. And I said, hey, I'm okay not having children because I need this time to work on my creative endeavors. And she and I decided to marry, despite the fact she was a Republican and I was like a revolutionary. And she was Catholic and I was a non practicing Jew.
Mhm.
And she was a little Filipina and I'm this giant Costa Rican hybrid. All these things, we made a decision to try to be together, and it didn't end up working because of logistics,
Mm.
but we wanted to give it a try. And I think some marriages, they do work if they're less hypersexualized beings than I am, per se. Okay, because they have oatmeal on Sundays and they watch Third Rock from the Sun on Thursday, and they go to the farmers market on a Sunday, and they do these things that create their little symbiotic relationship that isn't necessarily romantic.
Let me ask you this though. How much of knowing that, being in that, but also still deciding to do the marriage aspect had to do with the fact that if you guys didn't get married, if you're not married, says something negative about yourself,
100%.
right?
100%. I felt like I had to get married because I felt like a weirdo and a failure for being 38 years old and not having been married yet. I was like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I commit? Why do I want to fuck different types of women? Why do I want to go out there and experience life in a way that felt very visceral? I'm like, am I weird? And the irony is this: there's so many men that are married and whatnot that looked at me as a non-married man and they're like, hey, trying to like take care of myself and be like kind of sexy. And they're like, oh, you gay? And I was like, in my mind, I was like, I
Oh,
was like,
them.
bro, I was like,
Oh,
bro, I
oh,
100%
oh, I
was
want it.
like, I was like,
Oh,
I am
that hurts me.
out there. And I don't say that.
You just don't want to fucking settle. You're not gonna settle for something you want.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm fucking gay and I'm just, ugh.
It's a whole thing. It's like I'm not compromising, I'm
Yes.
not settling, but that's hard to like. You don't say that because that's I don't
No.
know. It was like a whole thing where it's like I'm really out there in a way you don't understand, and I feel like women are more about that life because I think it's easier for women. You have
I
tons of dudes. You walk down the street, there's a dude behind a tree, there's a dude behind the bush. You get a cup of coffee. Everything you do, there's a guy who's like, yo, I'm into it. But as a man, unless you're a certain type of guy, you don't have that same opportunity. Like you have to
yeah.
be tall, you have to be fit, you have to be attractive. There's a thing, and then it is very similar to what women are just experiencing, just being women in life. But like,
Well,
I don't
yeah, I
know.
mean, here, I'm gonna, sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you for a second, but think about the amount of just like shows you hear about, or like shows you see about the time it was before, even like when we were probably born, like in that, even just that time frame, right? Like, oh, you're 17 and not married yet? There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. And it's not to say that we're 17 now. It's now we've evolved in the sense that like, okay, I'm 20 something or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's still whether or not it's, I mean, we've moved past the fact that you don't have to be 15 married already, because that was way in the olden days. But you're before
A
your 30s.
15-year-old is a decade away from being 5. A
Oh,
22-year-old is a decade away from being 12.
no. But think about it though. Think about it though. If someone is 25, even close to getting their 30s, and they're not in a committed relationship leading to kids or marriage, people look at them differently. People look at them differently. And the people who are single, because they know they don't want to just settle for just whatever dick comes around or whatever person comes around, people judge that. And that's what comes from insecurity within those who are in that state. Like for myself, one thing is like, if the second I realize, no, you're not my person, I will end that shit, because I'm not one to settle for that bullshit. And that comes again with that self love from myself, because I am not going to settle for someone who doesn't value all of me and me. I want someone who values
Mm-hmm.
all of me. That doesn't come around all that often, right?
100%.
But at the same time, when you do find someone that does value so much, they might not be that 100%. You do end up settling, and then it doesn't end up happening, like for yourself, in the sense that you think, oh, they love me for all these things. Let's get married. And then it fails because it doesn't meet all these other things that really are real, that really are needed in a partner. You then start thinking of yourself. You then start getting more shameful in yourself, that when it fails, you don't you don't view it in the sense that, oh, I messed up because I committed myself to someone who didn't love me authentically for me and my full self. You start thinking, oh, now everyone is going to think something's wrong with me.
100%. 100% is the thing. So,
Marriage or relationship, whatever it is. And you start, that's a negative thing you can go down on it. And I want everyone to know, who gives a fuck about them.
100%.
I,
And I think that is where we end the show today. Kirsten, thank you so much for being part of the show today. I think it was great. So
I
everyone, if you want to check out more of Kirsten's art or just your positive nature in action, you can find her on Instagram at Groovy K Lewis or Kickstand 12.0 on IG. It's scrolling right now. You can also go to her website, groovyklewis.com, where she will be coming out with her new collection of wood burn art with her
right.
One Tit Wonder Cancer Awareness merch. Or if you're in the Portland area, please come out. We're going to be peddling her wares at some of the local merch
Last
and art
yeah.
stores. So just know, thank you, Kirsten, so much for being part of this discussion on love. I think it was very, very informative and in depth. And thank you all for watching. Until next time, this has been the Evening Muse.
Thank you for having me. This has been amazing. Thank you again. I loved this, and I hope everyone took something from it, whether it was just a minute of it or the full 2 hours or so of it. So thank you again. Have a wonderful evening. And yes, come say hey if you're in the area.
Nothing but love.
Mwah. Bye, everyone.